Hey, how's it going? I don't know about you guys, but I am bummed that this is all over. Hopefully you'll stick around for the stuff that's coming up. Did a lot of stuff on the Royal Enfield after the TAT trip, and I've got some stuff planned for this summer. It is January now, so we've been back, I don't know, we got back end of July sometime. So we've been back quite a long time. But I did want to go over the bike, let you know about my accessories, where I got them, all the gear, camping gear, luggage, everything that I brought. I'm going to go through it all, so this could be a long one. So I'll put some chapter numbers down in the description in case you want to skip around. But yeah, let's get into it. All right, there she is. It's freezing outside, so she's getting to come in the house for a little while. Look at that beautiful beast. Amazing, amazing bike. I cannot believe that little thing made it all that way. It's so crazy. All right, so I'm just gonna start at the beginning. Tires. I started the stock tires, and I was like, yeah, I can totally do the TAT on the stock tires. No problem, because I did the Smoky Mountain 500. John and I both had stock tires on that, and they did great. I really liked them, although I had nothing to compare them to. And after riding on these, I mean, it's night and day. Highly recommend the Shinko 244s. John got the 241s to start with, and he liked them, but they were very, very soft and wore out quickly. So anyway, this is actually the tire Brett gave me. It's still going. The back one I had to replace somewhere along the way. But very, very highly recommend those tires. Shinko 244s, they're cheap and they're great. And you'd think they're pretty aggressive, and you'd think they wouldn't be good on the road, but they're really good on the pavement too. They don't wear down that fast, and they were just great all around. I think I've got a 2.5, maybe it's a 2.75 on the front and a 3-inch on the back. And those were great. Thanks, Brett, once again. I do have a Fender Riser going on here, and I don't know if you need that or not. John didn't have one, and he was fine. I did come in handy in some of the mud before I met John. That one day in Oklahoma, I went through some pretty gnarly, sticky stuff, and it was nice to have that clearance for that. So I would probably do that again. However, you should know, I don't know if you can see that giant dent right there. You have to move the horn when you do this. Usually the horn's facing down, and you can see I just flipped it around. And that's supposed to give you enough clearance. However, these shocks are so soft. I mean, that's, how many inches is that? I don't know, but the suspension is soft enough that it made that dent. So be aware of that. Maybe you can get less of a riser and that would be better. I'm not sure, but just be aware of that. This Fender's totally trashed. Headlight Guard. I got all the rack stuff from a place in Thailand. They don't even have a website. They have a Facebook page. And so it's a little sketchy to send them money. You know, I just wired them money and hoped for the best, and it turned out to be great. The guy is really cool. It's a good shop, and they make really solid stuff. So the Headlight Protector, I don't know that I needed. I think it looks kind of cool, but it's not like it saved my headlight from anything on this trip. I mean, unless you're barreling through, I don't know, branches or something, I don't see what the point is. But I like how it looks. Front rack, super solid. All this stuff fit really well. I did notice that on some of these, there's a little rust happening in there, but I don't know, maybe that's to be expected. But this is a great rack, and again, I'll put all this in the gear list page so you can find this stuff if you want it. Again, wiring money like that and just trusting that it'll work out is kind of risky, but I really got to say, the guy is very cool, and I would recommend it. And the prices were outrageously cheap. If you look at eBay or those other websites, which I'll list on the screen, that are sort of the normal go-tos for this gear. The prices are crazy and the shipping is crazy. So I'd highly recommend checking this guy out. I zip tied my USB cables to the rack just so they would always be where they needed to be. I don't know if that's a great idea with the weather and stuff. I don't know. They seemed to be fine. This is a USB. I'll put info about that in the gear list. I think it's fried. I haven't tried it, but it got rained in and all kinds of stuff, and I don't think it's working. It was okay because I had a alternate charging situation for my tank bag, which I'll go into later. But it was good when it lasted, while it lasted. These crash bars are from the same place in Thailand. They're great, very solid. Johnny Pow didn't have any crash bars, and he probably didn't need them. I am someone who crashes, so they were good for me to have. I'm just noticing that the crash plate is bent all to hell. I actually didn't notice that till right now. So I don't know, maybe a sturdier crash plate would have been good. But I guess that's fine. This is my Sae connector. That goes straight to the battery. I left the fuse out so that if I needed to change that, I could get to it. And this is just sort of connected with some Velcro. This attached to my tank bag, which I'll show you later. And that was great to have for all the charging going on in my tank bag, as well as the Slime air compressor, which I'll show you later too. So that was a nice thing to have, and I definitely recommend adding that. This is a little side bag rack, and this was solid too. The problem was, I don't know if I can even see where these tabs were. There were some little tiny tabs up here. They look exactly like this, and that's where it was bolted to, and it's what the old toolbox was bolted to that came with the Honda, and they just snapped off. I mean, they're kind of flimsy, and so this is the weld job that Tony did for me at Topar in Trinidad, and I mean, it is so solid now. It's great. But even before that, this was pretty solid. The problem was the vibration. The bolts just were coming out all over the place. And you can see here, that bolt is still missing, and I need to get that replaced and get another spacer. But you'll see right here, this snapped off. And I absolutely do not blame the rack on that. That bolt had been loose for hundreds and hundreds of miles, and the vibrations, and you know, and that was after these came out, so it had no support here. The only place that was holding it on was here and my paracord. And so I really don't blame the rack on this. I think that was just from abuse, but that piece is snapped off, and I'm gonna have to figure out how to fix that. But this rack was great. I put a little really cheap Amazon bicycle bag on there, and those bags have clips that go like right there, and a little strap that you pull them up to unlock it, and it worked really well. I was glad to have that side bag. That's where I kept all my weather stuff, my tools, stuff that I needed to get to, layers, stuff like that was in there, and that was nice. And then in the back, I have this taillight guard, which, like I said, that bolt is missing, so I need to fix that. I don't know what it protected. I kind of like how it looks, but probably unnecessary. Around this side, I painted these. I'll put the kind of paint I used in the on the gear list page. I still have this massive dent that I have no idea how that happened. But even with that, you can see how good this paint held up. It's pretty impressive. So anyway, I need to bang that out and fix that. What else? I think that's all the accessories that I put on the thing. And then, of course, we have the dreaded seat. Oh boy. So for those of you who don't have a CT125, when you look at the seat, you'd be like, that looks super comfortable. And it's just not. I had some foam put in from a local upholsterer. She's actually specializes in motorcycles and she's great. I'll put her info up in case you're from the area. She might do mail stuff too. I don't know. But you might be able to ship her yours and get it done. But I think any local upholsterer can take care of it for you. Just tell them what you want. She just put a little bit of foam on the top. I thought maybe I wanted a gel pad, but she said that gel pads suck because they get very hot in the heat and they get frozen if it gets cold enough. Not completely frozen, but they get very cold and hard. And so she said, forget about the gel. Just use the memory foam. So that's what she did. She also scooped it out a bit, and I'm not sure what else she did. But anyway, it definitely helped. Still was not very comfortable. Chain, that's a new chain I got in Tulsa. The stock chain really seemed to stretch a lot. I felt like I was adjusting the chain every other day at least. So check Johnny Powell's gear review, and maybe he'll list what kind of chain he got, because he said it was great. It never stretched. This one was pretty good after a bit. Obviously it stretched and it was brand new, but it turned out pretty good too. I don't even know if I know what kind of chain that is, but I'll try to find out, and if I can figure it out, I'll put it in the on the gear list. One other problem I had was these, and there was a time when I guess I went over or something and it jammed this up and just totally messed this whole peg up. And I thought it was going to be a big deal, and I was somewhere and they just pulled this out. It was not a big deal at all. I think it's made to sort of crush in like that or something. But they just took a pair of vice grips or something and pulled it out and fixed it. But I went through a lot of the ride with this all screwed up. It was like all bent up. So for a lot of the trip, I had a Magic Arm mounted here with a GoPro. Actually, it had a quick plate, so I could just slide the GoPro right on. And this is called a Magic Arm. It's just a nice mount that you can put in any position, tighten down. It's pretty tough, and I say it's pretty tough, but the one I had mounted actually disintegrated on the way there somewhere. But anyway, I didn't use it much anyway. I should have, but nice to have around if you're doing GoPro stuff. All right, let's talk about luggage. I really did have all this pretty much straight before I left, and there's another video I'll link to below from before my trip when I was prepping, and everything sort of stayed the same. I'm only going through it again because I can tell you what really worked and what didn't work, but the whole plan was actually pretty good, surprisingly. So first we'll check out the front rack, the famous front rack who starred in the show. So this is an Apache case. I think it's an 1800. It was like $12, very cheap. I put some, whatever those are called, on it to have something to put a strap on. I really didn't need the strap. I attached it. I've just thrown this on there, so it's not really down tight. And I'll show you this in a more clear way later. But it's just a bar and a wing nut, and there's a bolt that goes through the bottom. And I attached I don't know how you pronounce it, but it's one of these viole straps underneath and back around, and just attached it again that way as a double safety measure. I didn't really need the strap because it was very solid when I had it clamped down all the way with the bracket that I'll show you later. I mounted it backwards so that I could get to the drone easily on the bike, which worked. And this is how it was packed. There was some foam on this side, and I taped up it's all disgusting now, but I taped up where these screws came through to keep things protected a little bit. And fit in there perfectly. And when I close it, this foam and the foam on the side, it was solid. So the problems I had were obviously just the vibration. It wasn't vibrating inside here, but the whole bike was vibrating, and I think that caused problems. So I would not do that again. But it's a nice case to have up front anyway. Be good for other stuff, snacks, or a little bottle of water, whatever. Okay, and this is the Jibby Tank Bag. Kind of fit there pretty good. I had to do some weirdness getting these straps right that you attach it to, but it worked fine. Originally, I had a rack here, but it just pushed everything up more, and I didn't like it, so I took that off. If anybody wants it, let me know. But this worked really well. It definitely was waterproof, and it held all my camera stuff, batteries, charging, all that stuff was in there. And I'll go into that in detail, but there's an inverter in here because I had to bring my laptop because I couldn't figure out a way to transfer the files without it. And also just for work, I really didn't want to be without it. So I did bring a laptop. And anyway, there's an inverter in here, which I'll show you later. And so this comes from my laptop, which is in that back bag. And so it could be charging the whole time. And then this is the SAE from that inverter. So it gets power here. And then again, I'll show you later, but inside here, everything's charging all at once with a USB port. And that worked really well. I did learn some things, which I'll tell you when I go through all that stuff about electricity, which I didn't know, but apparently it's a stupid idea to invert from a 12-volt battery to AC power and then back to 12-volt for all the battery chargers and stuff. All right, this is the Cheapo Side Bag I got from Amazon, and it worked great. It's got those clips on the back that clips right to the bar, and I don't have it anymore, but I had a rock strap that just went around here just to keep it secure. But it was amazing that, the clips on the bar there, and then this little lip fit perfectly on the bottom tube there. So it really was amazing. Just got lucky with that. I kept my selfie stick here until I lost it. And then I didn't rig this up for this because it turned out to be not the best idea. But for fuel, I had this filled with gas, sort of rigged under here. And it was sort of strapped, and I went through a bunch of different iterations of that. For a while, I had some aluminum bars that would keep it rigid so I could get it in there. Because the problem is, these bladders are great, but when they're filled with liquid, it's like a water balloon, It's really all over the place and hard to deal with. So this bladder, and I had this is something I had for the RV, and it's like a water inlet thing, and so I could, because the problem too is, pouring this into the gas tank is impossible. So I had this, and it fit on that thread somehow, and it worked. It worked really well. It holds 4 liters, and I don't know how much gas that is. I don't know how many gallons that is, but I'll put it on the screen. And the reason I chose this method of carrying fuel was because there's only really a couple of spots on the TAT where I knew I would need fuel. We have about 125-mile range if you're being safe. On the conservative side, we did like 165 on a tank of gas a couple of times. But there were a few times when I knew we were going to need extra gas. And so my idea was, this would be great because when I'm not using it, I'll just fold it up and pack it away and won't have to deal with it. And on those sections when I know I'm going to need gas, I'll fill it up and go through the hassle of attaching it to the bike. And but I won't have to deal with it that much. The reality is, I never wanted to be without extra gas, and I'm glad that I made that choice. So I kept it full and under there for the whole time, because you never know. And there were a couple of times when I ran out of gas for no good reason, just in the middle of nowhere where I screwed up and didn't stop where I should have. And so I was glad to have it. I would say just always carry a bit of fuel with you, no matter what you're doing. This thing, though, while I thought it was going to be a great idea, it wasn't. It's hard to deal with because when it's full, it's so floppy and weird. But also, when you fill this with gas and it gets hot, it expands with air and it gets really like tight and full. And so you have to vent that. And you lose a lot of the gas through those vapors, I guess. And so I would fill it up, and a couple of days in the desert, and it was like, you know, a lot of the fuel was gone. So while I thought it was a brilliant idea, I do not recommend this. I do recommend this. Brett gave me one of these when I was stopped at his house in Arkansas, which stayed on the bike for a long time, and then I lost it somewhere in Utah, towards the end of Utah. And I had it strapped in here, and I had a carabiner, but it still fell off somehow. So I would say that these straps are great. I have a couple of these just hanging around in my kit because they're super handy. And I would say get one of those and just attach it that way. Brett on his had some sort of scratchy, almost asphalty tape on it, which made it very grippy, and that was a great idea too. So if you can find that stuff, that would be good as well. My water was always in here. Again, 4 liters. And this worked out great for me. I could always access it pretty easily. I never did figure out a good way to like have this up near my helmet. I did for like a couple of days, but it was kind of a hassle. So I did have to stop to drink water most of the time, but that worked well. I lost the little thing that used to be here. At some point this was dragging along the ground, and right before I needed it in Utah, it disappeared, but it still worked, so it was fine. And here's the smaller Jibby bag and the larger Jibby bag. And these are rock straps attached to the bike. Highly recommend these, and bring some extras too, because I went through probably 3 of them. Mostly on the side bag there, they would sort of, either I would forget to clip it and it'd get caught in the wheel or whatever, but I ruined a couple of them. They are tough though. These are actually these are the original ones that I used here, and they're fine. They're still totally fine. Highly recommend the rock straps. And I would thread that through the bag itself, and then through the water. Obviously this is different when it's full of water. It's a little easier to secure. And then I would thread it through these, so just in case, it would always, you know, be attached if something tried to fall off. And they worked great. These bags worked great. They were pretty tough. I gotta say right now, they're full of holes. I held one up to a light, and it looked like constellations, just little pinholes everywhere. But what do you expect? I mean, they've just been abused, and they worked really, really well. Really happy with that. Really happy with all this stuff. Everything that I ended up with really, really worked well, and was as easy as I think it could be on this bike. I've since spent way too much money on the Moscow Reckless 80, which is incredible and worth every penny. I don't know if that rig would even go on this bike. I don't think it would. But yeah, the bike has the great rack, and it worked well. One more thing about the bike I'll show you is once you delete the toolkit, you don't have a place to put your documents. I made this little Gorilla Tape wallet, and my stuff's in there. I don't even have it in a Ziploc bag. It never got wet, and it worked well. Also, you can just store your helmet lock right there, and it works fine. So I hope I've covered how the luggage went on the bike, because I'm going to take it all off and I'm going to go through every single thing in it, just sort of piece by piece. I've already gone through what's in the front rack, so I'm not going to bother with that, but I will show you how it's attached. And we'll get into that in just a sec. All right, let's get into this. So start with the tank bag. And this is where I kept all my electronics and stuff. I rigged this together to hold my filters. I have a better way to do that now. This is a micro SD card carrier, and I just carry that and the little adapter I need for the laptop in there now. So that's a little better. And on the TAT, I'm just gonna take all this stuff out. So on the TAT, I had all this stuff sort of Velcro taped together. So it was just like one unit, which kept everything organized. And so what I did was, I have this inverter, and I needed this because of the laptop. So it's got 110 AC power, and it converts the 12-volt battery to that. And I fed that into just a normal sort of everyday USB hub charger. And from there, everything else got charged. So this is the drone batteries. And it actually has an output charger too. So you can use this as a power pack, which was nice. And I had, at night, I would charge this and the T-Com unit off of this power pack, and I left this charging all day in the bike so that it was 100% at night, and so I was able to charge my Garmin Inreach and the T-Com unit and my phone at night if I was camping. And this is great. I have since upgraded to this. It's just a little more meaty, has some USB-C outputs. And this thing is great. I'll have all this stuff in the gear list, so check that out. This is the charger for the GoPro batteries. I had a little rubber band around it during the trip just so it wouldn't come open and spill out the batteries in the case. But this worked well. This is the Garmin Inreach. Highly recommend if you're going to be traveling alone especially. But anyway, you should have one of these. There's also Johnny Powell had a Spot. That's good too. But so this thing, if you get in trouble, there's an SOS button. You press that and a helicopter comes, supposedly. But you can also use it when you don't have cell service to check in with family. You know, I had like just sort of set messages that I'd send out every night, like, I made it to camp, all is good, and it would go through the satellite and text my family. And I also had one set to send to John, hey man, I don't know where you are, whatever. So this is a key piece of kit. It's not cheap, but safety and everything. This is just a normal everyday USB hub. I was able to use that because I had the inverter. And this was great because I could lift out this whole thing at a motel, plug that into the wall, and charge everything at the motel. Inverter, simple, it's pretty small. I taped the power button on because it would get jostled around and flicked off. And so this went to the USB hub, and this went to my laptop when I needed to charge that on the bike. So this worked great for me because I did need the laptop. However, if you don't need a laptop, you can get something like this. This is just a 12 volt, it's the same thing, it's got 6 USB ports. And so what I'm gonna do is splice this into an SAE connector, and I'll just have this in the bag, and that will replace the inverter and this when I don't need the laptop. These cables, I got a bunch of short cables because it gets really messy really quickly when you have a bunch of stuff you're charging. So I highly recommend you get some short cables for that. Just keeps things neat and tidy. And again, there's links to all this stuff in the gear list. As far as navigation, we used Gaia, which is great. It's also really, really good for route planning. I used this old iPhone 6, and I have a quad lock case on it, and that worked well. There's also a universal quad lock mount that you can just tape to any phone with super strong adhesive 3M tape, and that works great too. I would get that instead of this case. But this worked great. I had it set up so it connected to Wi-Fi on my personal phone, so I could still use Google, I could still use Google Maps, whatever else, and this worked great. It may have overheated once. The one thing is with iPhones, you can't mount them on your bike if you care about the camera because it will ruin it. So don't mount your good phone on your bike. John and I both had phones get fried that way. I had to get a new phone in, where was that? Tulsa. So just be careful of that. Keep your real phone in your pocket. We also tried these Dura Force phones. This one has the universal quad lock mount on the back. And these phones are great. They're ruggedized. There's no case on this. This is how it comes. They're supposedly waterproof, and I love it, except for the fact that we could not charge it. I think it takes more juice than our USB connections would output. And so we had a lot of problems with these, and honestly, we just couldn't use them. So I think it was our fault for the USB connection we had on the bikes. But even when I tried charging it in the bag, I had problems. So I don't know. I wish it had worked because they're very cool, but it didn't work. Now, the one thing about using the Gaia app on the trail is that the icons, it's not made for motorcycles, and the icons are extremely small. And so when you have gloves on and you're bouncing around on the bike, trying to get it in the right mode was a problem. I wish they had a function where you could lock the screen, like you get the screen how you want it and you could lock it, but it doesn't do that. So every time you turn it on, you have to choose the correct mode, just as far as positioning of the map and all that stuff. And it was kind of a hassle. So since then, I've upgraded to this Zumo XT. And these are made specifically for motorcycles. So the icons are very, very big. And it's just really easy to navigate with gloves on. And I love this thing. It was expensive, and that's why I didn't buy it for the TAT. Looking back, I wish I had just spent the money and gotten this because it's pretty nice. As far as mounts, I used this. It's kind of big and it looks kind of dumb when it's by itself on your bike, but the other RAM mounts have those little rubber things that you have to do every time, and it's just a pain in the neck. This, you just lift it up, slide your phone in. It's really easy and really solid. I never had any problems with things jostling out of this. It was great. When Johnny Powell's phone mount disintegrated on the trail, I gave this to him to use for the rest of the trip. I really like this thing. But after I gave it to Johnny Powell, I used a quad lock. Again, these mounts are kind of stupidly expensive for what they are, but this is a really good piece of kit too. I like it a lot. By the time the TAT was over, a couple of these little nubs in here had completely just been destroyed. And I emailed the company and said, can I get that? Can I buy a replacement part? And they were like, nope, we're just going to send you a whole new deal. So it's a good company as far as that goes. And I really liked this. It's easy to mount the phone and get it off. So I really liked that a lot. And I think that's about it for the tank bag and the charging situation. It all worked really well, and I was happy. I was happy with it. Okay, first up is my camping bag. Everything I needed to set up camp is in this bag, so that when we arrived at a camp somewhere, this came out first. And the first thing on the top that I would pull out first is my hat. This is a good hat. I'll link to that in the gear list. This little pocket blanket, awesome. So I'd get to camp, throw this out on the ground, and then I could put all my gear on that, and so it wouldn't get dirty and wouldn't lose anything in the dirt. Love this thing. It's also good for like doing maintenance on the side of the road and you need to just have a place to put your tools and whatever. Really good. Tent lantern, this worked great. Use this a lot. Headlamp, I don't think I use this at all actually, although it's very good to have on the trail. I wouldn't be without it. Then I have a little ShamWow. If you've done a lot of camping, you know this. If you haven't, a lot of times when you wake up in the morning, your tent will just be covered in dew. And to pack that up all wet like that kind of sucks. So I would use this to just wipe it down real quick, wring it out, and it dries pretty much instantly. So this was good to have. And again, the hat, good to have. And so, again, this stuff would just be all smushed up, right on top, ready to go. Okay, next thing out would be my camp shoes. These were great. They smushed down pretty good. And I'd, again, on the blanket, I could change my boots, put these on, get out of those big heavy boots. These were great. They were a little squeaky when they're wet. So I've upgraded to these. I don't know if it's upgraded or not, but these, man, these fold down to nothing. They're like water shoes, and I will feel stupid wearing these in a bar or something, but I don't care. They're super small, and they've got a sole on them, and they'll be great for camp. This is my bathroom bag, which is different from my toilet bag. So this just has the essentials: toothpaste, toothbrush, little deodorant, some Gold Bond medicated, super key for your ass and your nether regions, little disposable razor, any kind of soap. I had Bronner's when I started out. It broke somewhere along the way in this bag and made everything minty fresh. And this is a camp towel, Sea to Summit. Love this thing. Packs down to nothing. You can see it's like big as my hand. And if you unpack it, it's pretty big. It's very absorbent. I mean, it's not a cotton hotel towel, but it gets the job done. And you wring it out and hang it for like 5 minutes and it's dry. It's really, really worked well. I like this thing a lot. That's all I needed for the bathroom. Next out is the tent. This is a big Agnes copper spur 2-man tent. Love this thing. I would definitely get a 2-man at least, because you need room for your boots and your gear and whatever else you don't want dew to cover overnight. This tent is great. I've had this a long time, and it's really, really good. Camp chair. I had one, I sent it home. It's kind of nice to have, but I didn't use it enough to carry, so will I bring it on other trips? Maybe, I don't know. I mean, it's pretty small and it's very light, but I didn't use it much. So Johnny Powell sent his home as well. Or actually, he just threw his away. This is a set of bag liners. Basically, it's a sheet. But it's like a bag sheet. And these are great. Number one, if you want to keep the inside of your sleeping bag clean, you can line it with this. I never did that. I used this for either if I wanted something extra, if it was a little cold, I'd use this and the quilt. Or if it's really hot, you can just use this as just something to cover you up. And these are great. The sleep pad, this is a Neo something Air, I'll link it. This is expensive. If you're gonna spend money, I would say spend it on this because you wanna be comfortable and you wanna be able to get a good night's sleep. And this was awesome. Then I have my food bag. And this is actually the bag for my bear bag, I think. Anyway, all my sort of cooking stuff is in here. A Zach cup. The only reason I brought this is because to use the AeroPress, you need a real cup. The collapsible ones don't work. This is an AeroPress, and I filed down this so it would fit in the cup like that. This makes great coffee. This is what we use every day at my house. This thing's essential. Love it. So usually there would be some camp meals in here. If you watch the series, you know that the whatever that stuff was, those vegan meals were disgusting, but you know, you need some freeze-dried meals. Because sometimes that's all you can do. I used this spoon on the TAT, and it's great for getting down in those bags, but it's kind of long and it makes it hard to sort of pack. So I picked up one of these. We'll see how it does. It seems kind of cheap. I think it's gonna probably break, but I'm gonna try it out. Had some coffee. This is left over from the TAT. Fig bar, very important to me. Some other bars. I'd always try to grab a paper towel out of the bathroom in a gas station along the way just to have something to clean up with. One thing I don't have here is the wet wipes. Definitely bring a package of those. Those are good for mini showers, washing your face. Definitely have a packet of those. This is my fuel canister. I used the yellow heat for my stove, which I'll show you in a second. I like this thing because you can squeeze the exact amount into the little area there, pour that in my stove, and good to go. Unnecessary, but you need to carry the fuel anyway, so. This is my cook kit and stove. This is a Toaks. Very small, very nice, very lightweight. This is my stove. It's called a Fancy Feast stove. You just pour the fuel in there, let it soak into the wick for like 30 seconds, light it up, and you've got a good flame. You can get a boil in about, I don't know, 4 minutes, 6 minutes. And it's very quiet. I don't like those jet boils because they're so noisy. So anyway, I love this. Of course, you need a lighter. This is a windscreen that if it's windy, you put this around the stove so that you can keep the flame going. And then at the bottom of this is a collapsible cup. I think this is Sea to Summit too. It's a pretty handy thing to have. And that's it. That's my kitchen. And then this is a rock sock. It comes with these, this paracord, and it's a bear bag. So you fill it with rocks, you throw it over a tree, and the thing that makes this different is usually you know, you're pulling the rope and it's rubbing against the tree. This, you throw it over and you use a carabiner to attach the other paracord, and you just lift it straight up that way. So there's no fraying of the paracord. And so you attach this bag with any of your smelly stuff like antiperspirant, toothpaste, any food, and you can lift it up and get it out of the way of the bears. And that worked pretty well. I liked that. We didn't understand it the first time we tried it, but once we got the hang of it, it's a pretty good piece of kit. Also in the bottom of this bag is where I carried my tubes, hoping that I didn't really need to access them too much. Unfortunately, I did have to, but you know, I just wanted them out of the way. And that's everything that I kept in this bag. So again, I could get to camp, pull out this bag, everything I need to set up camp is in there, and that was nice. Next up is the main Jibby bag. Msr bottle. And in here, I would fold my laptop up in my sleeping bag. This is a gigantic MacBook Pro. It's got a nice protective case, and I also used a soft case on it that's been destroyed. Obviously, it would have been better to have a much smaller computer. Did not need this, but it's what I had, so it's what I brought. It's heavy too. I was really worried about this being protected, and I never had any problems. I think that's the right place to keep it, sort of up top. I wouldn't want it on a side bag or anything for when I crashed. And that worked well, and I was able to charge it on the bike. Okay, next in here is my sleeping bag. It's actually a quilt. It's by Enlightened Equipment. It's a 30-degree bag. I think I would go a little lower if I was buying another one, and I may buy one that's a 0-degree bag. But you pay for it in space. So this, you know, it smashes down to nothing. And, you know, a lower degree bag won't smash down that much. But this worked well. I like the quilts because I feel a little claustrophobic in bags, but this is a great company. Their stuff is not cheap at all, but highly recommend their stuff. It's high quality. And this bag worked well. I don't think I was ever really that cold, maybe a couple of nights. But you know, 30 degree doesn't mean it gets down to 30 degrees and you're comfortable. It means you won't die. So when you're buying a bag, keep that in mind. And I guess go as low as you can, taking into account how much space it takes and all that stuff. This is another little piece of ShamWow that I had. This is a little clothing cube thing. And this is all the clothes I had. Well, almost all. There's some other stuff, some other places. This is the dryer. I tied knots in the corners, put some paracord on it, hung that on the back of my bike, and it was a great way to dry the clothes. I had this specifically for sleeping and nothing else, so it was always fairly clean. And it's just a pair of like exercise shorts and a nice cotton sweater. And actually this is Lee. The kids got me that. So that was it for sleeping. And then I had one shirt, one pair of socks, the shirt and socks I had on, and that was it. I had a pair of shorts, and this is what I wore most of the time. I also had these pants, and I had the underwear I had on, and another pair. These were really comfortable. I'll try to link to these in the gear list as well. Any kind of merino wool socks are great. When you say wool, you think it's going to be super hot, but they're not. They're really great, and they dry quickly, and they don't stink too bad. Also, merino wool shirts are good. Merino wool, it like hangs all over you though, and I don't really love it. These are Pima cotton, which you're not really supposed to wear cotton because it doesn't breathe, it gets sweaty, they stink, but this is a certain kind of cotton that's kind of like merino wool, where it's wicking, it sort of gets the moisture off you, and quick dry. It's like sort of an exercise sort of shirt. Any shirt like that, like you can get at sporting goods stores or Walmart even, just those wicking sort of not real fabric. Synthetic is better. I think these are kind of the exception. I love these shirts. They're really comfortable. They dry quickly and they don't get stinky. But that was it for the main clothing. I carried this little lunchbox, and it just had the odds and ends that I needed. Hard drives. These hard drives are way better than this hard drive. There's no moving parts in here. These aren't cheap though. And this holds 2 terabytes. So these were great. This I wouldn't bring again. I would bring more of these. And I just had odds and ends for the GoPro, extra propellers, extra guards, and there were some GoPro mounts and some other just stuff in here, filters, things like that. Then I had this backpack, folds up like this. I never actually used this backpack for anything other than as a pillow, and it worked well for that. I guess it would have been good though for like a beer run or something like that if we had all our stuff at the motel and we needed to run out and get something. It would have been good for that. Not necessary though. Here are some things that I brought and didn't really need. Thermal long johns, thermal long shirt thing. I thought I was going to need this kind of stuff in Colorado, and I didn't need it. I sent this back. So if I do the Northeastern BDR, I probably will bring these because that's going to be in September or October if I do it. This is another long sleeve sort of mountain biking shirt, really warm, never needed it. I overdid it by that much. This is a survival knife that I brought. I was thinking I would need it to process wood, to make shavings or to cut, use a big stick to break down wood. Never made a campfire once on the trail, so did not really need this. Will I bring it again? Yes, I probably will, because campfires need to be in my future, so we'll see how that goes. I brought an extra pair of gloves that I never needed. And I brought this Silky Saw, and Amazon won't let me link to this. I don't know why, maybe because it's dangerous. But I brought this thinking, if there was a small tree across the trail that I needed to cut or whatever, or, cutting dead branches off trees for firewood. Never used it. The main reason was because I saw that Jeremy Rides TAT videos when they were going through Oregon, and they had all kinds of trouble with downed trees. So I thought this would come in handy. Didn't end up needing it. Will I keep this around for trips? I might. I mean, it's small for what it is and what it can do, and it's pretty nice. But I didn't need it. I don't think you'll need it either, especially if you're doing Sam's routes if you're doing some other Yahoo's routes, you may need something like that. That's it for the big Jibby bag. Wait, that's not it for the big Jibby bag. I also carried a couple of bundles of this Paracord, and I highly recommend that you carry some of this stuff. I brought it thinking, you know, what if I was out in the middle of nowhere and there's a downpour and I wanted to like put up my tent footprint as a tarp. You know, you can run this across some trees and set up a tarp like that. I also will link to this guy. I got a little obsessed with paracord knots, and I highly recommend you learn a couple. I learned this one hitch knot, or I think it was, I don't know what it's called, but it was very useful, especially for like when my rack came apart. I was able to secure it with these knots, and it was the kind of knot where you tie it and then you can tighten it and it grips somehow and doesn't let go. So I recommend bringing some of this stuff. It's just something that could come in handy. Okay, this is the side bag, just a cheapo bag I got off Amazon. It's for bicycles, bicycle panniers, but it clipped perfectly on my rack and was great. First thing in here is a puffy coat. It smashes down to nothing. It's down, it's super warm, and I definitely will never leave home without this. Throw this on under my riding jacket and I was toasty warm. This is a great thing to have. This is Uniqlo. I'll try to link to something, either this exact thing or something similar. Wasn't expensive and a great thing to have. I wore this at night a couple of times to sleep just to stay warm. It's great. This is the toilet bag. That's why it's in my side bag. It's always handy just in case you need a little trail side stop. And in here, oh, that's where I carried the wet ones. Definitely have some of those. And little TP that you can replenish in gas stations along the way. I brought some sunscreen. I'd bring something smaller than this if I was doing it again, like a cream, something small. I brought some bug spray. Again, I would bring something maybe smaller. That was a cream. Like this stuff is really good, and you can get small containers of this. Little poo shovel. Leave no trace. For those of you who are going out to do the TAT, but you haven't been camping before, definitely look into the leave no trace sort of guidelines. You're supposed to stay away from streams a certain amount, and it's just about leaving the place the way you found it. And a little hand sanitizer. Okay, in this bag I also kept a long sleeve for a layer. I did use this a lot. It's just a regular long sleeve shirt, and it, you know, broke the wind a little bit, and good to have a couple of layers. So this and the puffy coat is really all I needed as far as warmth goes. Okay, rain gear. This was my rain gear. This is an old, like 10-year-old Columbia jacket that I just had lying around. It's awesome as far as a raincoat goes, but it's so bulky and hard to pack. I had some different sort of frog togs. I trashed these instantly. I mean, getting on the bike, you rip the crotch. They melt on the exhaust. They kind of work, but I don't know. They worked all right, I guess. But the problem with that was so bulky. So I've since upgraded to this Revit smock, which is stupidly expensive, but really good. Also Itchy Boots endorsed, so, you know. And this is a pair of their pants, Revit's pants. These weren't too expensive, but I'll show you a picture of the difference in size. These are tiny, and it's gonna just give me so much extra room. And when you're getting rain gear, if you are sort of new to motorcycling, Definitely get stuff oversized so you can fit it over your boots and your existing riding gear, because when it starts pouring, you don't want to mess around taking boots off, and you want to get it on quick. So I would spend some money on the rain gear. Get it small. I also kept the Slime air compressor in there. As you know, this was a godsend to me. On the Himalayan, I don't bother with this case. It's a little bulky. I just put this in a bag just like that, and it worked great. Highly recommend this. I think it might be a little bigger than some of the ones you can get, but it worked really, really well. I also kept in this bag, so it was handy, chain lube and a little bit of WD-40. This came in handy for my riding jacket. It got so dusty and disgusting that I couldn't unzip it or zip it back up. So a little of this on there took care of that. And chain lube, I don't know about this stuff. It's a little messy, but it came in a small bottle, so that's what I got. And I would do that every couple of days. Pressure gauge, I actually kept this in my front case because I was so paranoid about my tires there for a while. But definitely a good thing to have. And then the tool roll. This is a Wolfie tool roll. And I guess I'll go through what's in here quickly. Little JB weld, doesn't hurt to have around. Put it in a Ziploc. I didn't, and one of these exploded in my tool bag, and it was a real mess. Wasn't fun to clean up. A little microfiber rag. You can see this came in very handy for me. Good to have. Some tire spoons. These are the Motion Pro Bead Pro. These are great. They're very light and very strong, and they're great. The way these are shaped, I think you're less likely to pinch your tube when you're changing a tire. Love these. There's some good videos on how to use these too online. A spark plug wrench. The high quality Honda screwdriver, good enough. And then various wrenches. Again, I'll link to all these. This is a 17, a 19, a 12, a 14, and an 8 and a 10. And this is pretty much all I needed on the bike. I have a little ruler. I use this on the Royal Enfield to set my clutch play. It's also good for checking your chain tension, I guess. Not really necessary, but various zip ties, good to have around. These are a little wimpy. Brett told me about these huge ones at Harbor Freight. He showed them to me. Get some of those. Those would be good to have around. They're super heavy duty. Pair of small vice grips. Those came in handy a couple times. I've got 3 Allen key wrenches, and they're what I needed for the bike. I'll put the sizes on the screen. And then in here, some Loctite, fuse puller, a bit of Gorilla Tape just rolled on itself. Good to have. These are the attachments for my helmet where it attaches the windscreen. These tend to come apart. I've had 2 of them come apart on me. They just weren't tightened enough, or the vibrations over time just knocks them out. So good to have a couple of replacements of those. Have a few fuses that I never needed. Some latex gloves. And this I didn't have on the TAT, but I won't be without it ever again. It's a stem puller. That's a real pain in the ass to get the stem through the hole when you're changing a tire. This makes it much easier. Still a pain in the ass, but much easier. Recommend that. And that is pretty much it for the tool roll. Again, all this stuff is in the gear list with exactly what I brought. I don't think there's anything else I would need on that bike. This pretty much covered it for me. And I really like this Wolfie tool roll. I copied John on this. I had another one that was enormous, and I changed to this because John's was so cool. There's no Amazon link for this, but I put a link to their website so you can check this out. It's very nice. Something that I didn't have on the TAT that I do have now is a little patch kit. This would have been good to have. I did stop somewhere and buy one, but something good to have in your kit. And we already talked about the Msr bladders. I love these things. They're great and they hold a lot of water. Rock straps, definitely take a couple of extra straps because you're going to need them. Oh, I forgot my medical kit. This was in the side bag as well. It's a very high quality kit. I don't even know what's in here. Since I've upgraded, I'll put it on the screen to a little nicer of a kit. I think in addition to that, I'm going to get like a tick key or some tweezers to add to it. And other than that, I just think a small medical kit is probably all you're going to need. Hopefully you're not going to need it at all, but definitely should have some stuff to deal with minor emergencies. And I think that's all the gear I took. I think that's everything. If I've forgotten something that you saw in the videos, just put it in the comments and I'll add it to the gear list and respond. If you have questions about any of this stuff, feel free to comment. And definitely check out the gear list. I spent some time making it semi-organized, but if you have any issues with it, let me know and I'll fix it. I'm not going into the camera gear here. There's another video, which I'll link below, which goes into my gear setup in detail. So check that out if you're interested in that. Okay, now I'm gonna flip it over to John. He's gonna do his gear review and I'll see you in a bit.
Hey y'all, it's John. There's been a lot of requests for us to do kind of a gear rundown from our Trans-America Trail trip, and I should have made this video right when I got back, because the trip was in July and now it's December and I actually don't know where everything is. So I sort of packed everything up as well as I can remember, and with what has, you know, still around. Some things have changed on the bike, but I'm going to go through the bike, kind of my packing get up, what I took. I'm going to talk about what I thought did well, what I wish I had changed, etc. And then later I'll probably do a little add-on little clip at the end of my riding gear, which I didn't wear today. But let's look at the bike. Okay, so Angelo and I were both on 2021 Honda Trail 125s, also known as CT 125s. We started off completely stock. We both ended up going with Shinko 244 tires, which the front is, yeah, if I can remember, the front is a 2.5 and the rear is a 3. We also did not make any changes to motor or gearing, although regrettably I knew we probably should have gone a tooth smaller in the countershaft sprocket for the Alpine passes, and sure enough that really would have helped. One thing I'll point out first of all is our GPS was loaded on Gaia, which is an app available for Android and iPhone, and this phone is ruggedized Kyocera. It's supposed to be shock proof, and you know, I thought it would be perfect for the trip, but what we found out is we had a lot of problems charging it. One of the first mods I did to this bike was I installed a USB port here, and it's something I bought off eBay. It's a little inexpensive USB, dual USB that'll pretty much charge an iPhone, but it did not have enough current to charge this Android phone. So I added a secondary port, which comes off the battery, and there's a little pigtail down at the bottom that is no longer attached because I've moved that to my DR650, but I had a secondary USB port there, which was the Optimate, and it had a higher current output, which let me charge things like GoPro batteries and my little phone battery banks. And basically that, I just ran that up into the tank bag, and inside there is where I had all my devices charging. Thank you, appreciate it.
You saw her pucker?
No, it's good.
Oh, okay.
I've removed it from the bike, but I did at the time have a Pelican copycat. It's an Apache bag from Harbor Freight on the back, and inside there I kept spare electronic stuff that I wanted to keep out of the elements, and things like adapters, cords, that kind of thing. I guess front to back, we have these, or I went with Motoskill brand rack. So there's a center rack here, which I'll show, and there's a front rack. And on the front rack I kept my hat, which is handy to have to keep out of the sun, and the a dry bag up front, which has, this was like all of my rain gear and things like spare bungee cords and just kind of spare stuff. So I just strapped that on the front with a pair of bungee cords. Angelo and I both had the same 40-liter GV main bags, which this held for me all of my camping gear. And then I had another dry bag, which I just bought on Amazon, on the back. And this is this was basically all of my clothing and all of my kitchen. And then I just strapped it on, and then I had a pair of these Camelback bottle holders, which they have these Mully webbing on the back that I just threaded the strap through. And inside each of these I had a 1 liter Camelback water bottle. And this is great because I could grab them right, sitting on the bike. I didn't have to fish around. I could just get and go. And my deal is, I had one that was just spring water, and the other one was spring water with a Pedialyte like a powder additive for like dehydration. And that was great. And my diet basically every day was 1 liter of spring water with the Pedialyte in it and 1 Cliff Bar. And I had all my Cliff Bar snacks inside here in the tank bag. And then basically that would be my breakfast and lunch, and then in the afternoon I would have the second liter available. We'll go into the bags next. So in the center rack, here, I had a old magnetic tank bag that I got at Mid-Ohio swap meet, and in the top map pocket is a little rechargeable camp light, and this thing worked great. Never had to plug it in or anything, just let it charge in the sun. And then we had some of these Team CT125 decals that we would stick places sometimes or give away. Side pocket, still dust coming off of these. Side pocket, pair of Motion Pro tire spoons, which I luckily did not have to use. And in the center pocket, like I said, I had all of my battery stuff in here for charging. But I had toolkit. This is my Wolfman tool roll. Basic stuff. and things like a spare fuse and, you know, a couple little bits. I had zip ties. I had a inflation kit with these little cartridges. And I also have a puncture patch kit. And I forgot to put them in here, but also carried spare inner tubes in here. So I had a pair of like 3x17. Had stuff like sunscreen, hand sanitizer, had a medical first aid kit, and things of that nature. But you know, this worked out really good. The little magnetic flaps connected just right on the steel plate, no problem. In my rear dry bag, this is my camp and kitchen. Excuse me, this is clothing and kitchen. And first thing I'm going to point out is the stove I took. So for meals, I had a bunch of these like dehydrated camp meals, you know, and some of them were pretty good. Things like this. Some of them were good, some of them were less good, but I ended up taking too many. So you can see here, I brought home like 6. But we boiled water in the little stove here. So I had like a little fuel, little camp stove. But here's the problem I would have changed with this. This is too big. This thing is like massive. I only needed like, you know, 2 cups of water. So I could have gone with a much smaller one. And also Angelo had one, so we could have just shared one. And my other thing I didn't like is this utensil setup. I really just needed a spoon, and I needed a longer handle, because when you're reaching down in these bags, the long handle would be nice. And then this is one thing which worked out pretty good. This is a duffel bag, and it kind of folds up inside of itself to pack down. But I use this duffel bag on the airplane, so a lot of my gear I shipped it on the bike, but some of the stuff I took in person. So in this duffel bag, I took my helmet, the tank bag, my riding jacket, and then and my riding pants. And then I wore my boots on the plane and checked this in the airline. And then once I started the trip, it just folded it up. It stores down in its own zipper somehow, and then I just packed it back up and did the same thing to get back home. Clothing wise, I had 3 t-shirts and 3 pairs of socks, and I had 2 short sleeve merino wool and 1 long sleeve, which I don't know where it is right now. And then I took 1 pair of pants, which these are like lightweight camping type fishing pants, and they zip off to become shorts. And that is all the clothing I took. I did take a pair of Crocs to wear at the campsite, and my first pair of Crocs, I guess they did fine. And then also in here I would have underwear, toiletries, and my towel, camp towel. Main bag, this is a 40-liter Jibby bag. Still with fresh dust on it from the trail. Okay, I have the aforementioned Crocs. I carried one of these Msr Water Bottles. I didn't fill it up all the way. I found I didn't need that much water. I don't even know what this is, 4 liters. I probably had it half full, and at some point I just kind of quit using it. I also had the spout for drinking, but I never used that. It was stored up in the front bag and I never even touched it. I took a little Pelican case that contained an iPad, which I had for emergency use in case I had to do some work, so I could remote back to the office. I also carried had a little Bluetooth mouse that was in the tank bag for that. Wet wipes, biodegradable. Trowel. Extra bungee cord. Let's see. Tent. Excuse me, this is a sleeping bag and a compression sack. Forget what it is. I went to IKEA, or not IKEA. I went to REI and just spent a lot of money. It's an old camp pillow. That was nice to have. And then this was the key right here. Big Agnes camping pad, inflatable. And then I got a tent. I could have got a smaller tent, but I went with this guy. It was the Mountain Smith Morrison 2-person. A little bit bigger, but I'm kind of tall, so it worked out good for me. And then stuff like extra zip ties, random. That was it. One thing I would recommend everybody have, and Angela and I both had these, but I forgot to put it in my gear video, is a GPS locator. So Ange has the Garmin, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Garmin Inreach. This one's called Spot, and if you probably know what these are, but if you don't, it's all blurry. It allows you allows people to track your location, like on a website. You can see a map and see where you are, and it'll show, like, you know, your rate of speed and blah blah blah. It's like drops breadcrumbs, but also you can hit a button and call 911, and it works without cell service. It's a satellite technology somehow, and so that's like a good thing. And I have it with I have two cantilever, or what do you call it, carabiners, and it's attached to my jacket. So I wore it on my person, not on my motorcycle, so that if I got separated from my bike, I would not lose that safety net there. But it can also have this one. You can just have like pre-programmed buttons that can send something like just like a check-in. So that if I would hit this button, and it would send a message to my wife's cell phone text message and her email, and it would just give my coordinates, and it has a little pre-programmed message I would say, you know, saying I'm all good or whatever. And then you can do 2 or 3 like functions like that. So I had another one that would send a message to Angelo that would say, hey, I need help. So it's like not an emergency like for 911, but like you know, it's like, hey buddy, you know, come find me kind of thing. So my helmet was a Scorpion. I'm not really sure what the model number is. It's a modular helmet. Angelo has the same one, but I like that one because it has a very large like field of vision. The visor is very large, so that's I just like seeing more. It doesn't feel as claustrophobic as my other kind of more street-oriented helmet felt because of the way the chin strap was like further away. And then as far as like my jacket and pants, the brand is Oxford, and the model was like Montreal 2.0 or something like that. And not a fan. It was bulky. It was mediocre as far as weatherproof, as far as like waterproof. But I felt like I felt just kind of goofy wearing that stuff because it felt so bulky, kind of like I was wearing like a ski suit or a snowmobile suit or something. I think next time I would try something a little lighter weight, maybe like a mesh setup like the Climb or the adventure spec or one of those. And then as far as boots, I wore Garnet trials boots. What do they call them? Balance. Garnet Balance trials boots. And I like those because the sole is like flat, where you can slide your foot back and forth, so there's no heel. It's just because I rode trials, that was like the only boot I had. So when I was buying stuff, new stuff to take to the Transamerica Trail, that's what I bought. I think Angelo also wore merino socks, but that's what I took, is these merino wool socks, and those are great. But we kept it simple. You know, we weren't out there to look stylish and impress anybody. But the main thing as far as like my actual riding gear that I would change would be something lighter weight, maybe mesh or layering, or really just something that like I felt more comfortable in, because I never felt comfortable in that Oxford stuff. Anyway, so that's basically it for my gear wrap up. Thanks for watching.
And again, thanks to everybody who helped us along the way, Brett, Matt, Pete, all the people we met, all the shops we stopped at. Just amazing. Have so many people to thank and are so appreciative. The Facebook group, the ADV rider group, oh my God, just amazing community. And also thanks to Johnny Powell for making the trip. He had to do a lot to get out of work and all that stuff, and I'm so glad he did it. So hopefully you'll see us again soon for some more adventures, and thank you.